Good evening and welcome to the championship race for the Ignite Racing League JP Alfonso Studios GT3 series here on Maconi Entertainment. Tonight, after spending the last few months racing tracks across the world, the championship will be settled at Imola. My name is Joey Atterbury and I'm joined in the booth tonight by Justin Prince, Eddie Smith working the controls as our producer, and the camera angles being provided by Dougie Beard. Tonight's race is bound to be exciting. After a full season of racing, there is still a tight points battle coming to the finish. JP Alfonso leads the way with Juan Salazar right behind him. Jose Puch, Philip Forrester, and Nick Sorensen are all in the top 5, but it really is JP out front with just a slim 4-point margin over Juan Salazar. Imola is a track that can be tricky to pass on and easy to overstep the limit in some of the chicanes. Justin, why don't you give us a little bit more info on this Italian classic?
Well, when it comes to this 3.0 mile facility, and when it comes to racing in Italy as a whole at this facility, it's one with plenty of history. Since its opening in 1953, plenty of intense battles have taken place along its very fast, very long straights. The most recent change, keep in mind, for this facility is all the way back in 2009, where that's seen some of the adjustments seen today with the various chicanes around the facility. This is a classic Formula 1 facility, keep in mind, that combines those slow turns and chicanes added over the years with those traditional long straightaways, like the Variante Bassa all the way up to the Tamburino, or whether that's the Variante Villeneuve, or whether that's Tosa, one of the heartbreaking zones expected for tonight. 78,000 spectators usually can find their way around this facility at its most. And in turn, keep in mind, some of the corners do see a little bit of banking, around 3 degrees, especially in sections like Tosa, as well as Acqua Minerale, that are expected to be in intense parts of this race tonight when it comes to Imola.
It is a fantastic facility that's been around for a really long time, and what a great place to end the championship. And tonight, right, we're going to be in the GT3 cars for 60 minutes total. Going to have a 40% fuel load and a mandatory 1 tire change minimum for these cars. So going to see how the strategy plays out, and riding along board with JP Alfonso right now. We're in qualifying, got about 2 minutes left, and JP is currently sitting provisionally in the 3rd spot.
Yeah, and JP Alfonso currently looking to see if he can pick up at least 4/10. Draft, keep in mind, pretty significant around this track. So far, Schliemann's just been able to put on the times time and time again. The interesting note is Juan Salazar, with less than about 1 minute and 40 seconds to go, has yet to qualify. But right now, based on the provisional grid slots, would still start right behind him in the rows.
We'll just have to keep an eye on that, because I do see Juan Salazar out there as we see him on the screen and going to complete a lap, but he's very, very late in qualifying here, and I'm not sure if this is going to play out for the number 1 car. But looking down the order, current provisional pole, Giancarlo Schliemann right now our provisional pole sitter. Paul Gibson in the number 4 car, currently provisionally 2nd on that front row. JP Alfonso 3rd, Nick Sorensen 4th, and then Justin, like you were saying, Juan Salazar hasn't put down the lap, but he's not the only one. Justin Knapp, Lucas Santos, and Don York, who have all been entered in the session here, they haven't put down a lap either.
Keep in mind, when it comes to Santos' situation, he is currently not even at the facility, technically. Yeah. So with the few seconds to go in this qualifying session, these respective drivers have to consider for this race tonight as a whole. It is a bit of a smaller grid for tonight, we'll say, with the 8. But it's important to note for the championship competitors, especially Alfonso and Salazar, the goal was simple: finish the race. The goal is even more complex in Salazar's case. Hope Alfonso finishes outside the top half of the field.
Yeah, he's got to hope that JP maybe has a little bit of bad luck as he gets that lap in just as qualifying ends. And look at that, to the position number 4 on the grid. And you mentioned that championship battle, Justin. It's 20 points for the winner and then only 1 point fewer per position down. So JP has to finish a few positions below Juan Salazar. It's not just as easy as if Juan beats JP, that's how it is.
It's going to be intriguing how this night plays out, and I just received an interesting bulletin. There is the potential of a comp caution as well for this evening to factor in. That forwarded over from race admins just seconds ago. So there is the potential of that to be factored in too. We'll have to keep an eye on that. If that becomes the case, that would really bunch up the field.
That would be really interesting to see, and I think given the smaller grid count, that's a good variable to potentially throw in with race control there, and I don't blame them. Bunch the field back up, have a little bit of a mini restart, if you will, and get some good close racing again. I like those ideas from race control here, and looks like we actually have officially ended qualifying out on the racetrack, so we're going to have your starting grid. It is Paul Gibson who snuck one in at the end, your pole sitter in the number 4. Giancarlo Schliemann to his outside in the number 10 car. JP Alfonso lining up in the 3rd spot, our championship points leader. And then how convenient, Juan Salazar, his contender, right next to him. Nick Sorensen in 5th, Lucas Santos there in the 6th spot, Justin Knapp 7th, and Don York 8th. And checking everything, I do see Lucas in the session. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Lucas is not in the session anymore, so we'll have to double check, see if that's going to end up that final grid here for us, Justin.
Yeah, and looking at the point calculations, that'll be a major factor of the night with one less cars to factor it in. The goal is simple, even more so, I think you can even argue now for Alfonso. Just don't DNF the car in the final 2 spots, and you basically get the chance to celebrate by the end of the night. So I think that's essentially your key to victory for a championship. Just keep it on the racetrack. In terms of victory here tonight, well, keep it on the racetrack for one, but also think smart on your moves. So many times we've seen over the years at this facility, on this platform, troubles through Villeneuve, troubles through Tosa that have ended people's days at lap 2 or lap 1 even.
I completely agree with you. But in the minds of a race car driver, let me tell you, it's much easier said than done. Looks like we've got the Porsche pace car pulling off onto the safety of pit lane, and field is in the hands of Paul Gibson as he waits patiently for Barney the flagman to give that green flag to display. And looks like we finally are racing here at Imola on a very, very late jump on the green flag, and pretty even start from our front row. Gibson and Schliemann still side by side, but Salazar and Alfonso swap positions, and it's actually going to be Salazar taking away the 3rd spot from JP Alfonso, and now we got Schliemann going in the grass. That's going to mean Salazar up to 2nd and Alfonso in 3rd.
There goes Justin Knapp once again, the Cookie Monster into the wall, but Gibson a really good start after being a little bit slower through the box. But now it's Alfonso and Salazar bumper to bumper.
We got some more problems in the back. Don York having a little bit of an off, doesn't hit the wall, but still going on the racetrack and jumping back up to our battle, which is the championship battle. JP Alfonso, he might have had a little bit of a battle with Salazar going into turn 1, turn 2 there, but he is not giving up on it one bit. He's closing up on the Ferrari, and one thing we got to remember, Justin, is that these tires are still pretty cold. The drivers are working them in.
And if you aren't used to being able to push a little bit on the cold tires, it's very easy to make quick mistakes, very easy to loop the car around, very easy in some cases for the car to just slide off the racetrack with you pushing so hard. So you have to be very considerate on that until they get up to temp. Usually it takes about 3 laps or so for the tires to start reaching their optimum window before you start really feeling them grip up.
And something else we'll have to keep an eye on here. I see Ferrari, Porsche, BMW, and one of the great things about the GT3 class is, call it the diversity of manufacturers, and pretty cool to see here. Even in the top 4 spots, we have 3 different manufacturers represented here, and doesn't seem like there's much disparity between any of them.
Yeah, so far, pretty even because I think it's more so with the driver skill that's keeping them this even in regards to that point. So when you have a strong driver, in regards to that, you can kind of counter-react those differences manufacturer to manufacturer. It's still critical in the big picture when it comes to some tracks, but it is something that can counteract that if you have someone who knows how to drive like Alfonso this season.
I totally agree, and I'm going to take it even one step further than that, Justin, is that car setup is so important with these things that if you focus on just a quali setup or you don't focus on the big picture of a long run, you can find yourself losing a ton of pace at certain areas during the race. Right now, we could be seeing that JP Alfonso has a very fast car at the beginning half, but falls off at the end, and could be vice versa that Juan Salazar is a little slow now and fast at the end. We'll just have to wait and see, but it all comes down to the car setup and making sure it's there with you for the entire course of the race, because you got to remember, the checkered flag only falls at the very end, and that is when you want the fastest car underneath you.
A little bit of trouble there for Alfonso nearly off the racetrack, but the big point too to consider when it comes to being able to position yourself is you have to keep up and maintain tempo. We've seen on several tracks, especially some of the speedier circuits lately, Alfonso be consistent, be able to limit mistakes, and then be able to find his way forward in some of the races. You need that consistency at a track like this, because to be quite frank, yes, the draft can be big down the front stretch, but for just about the rest of the track, if you don't know how to carry the momentum and speed through the rest of the circuit, you're not going to be able to gain that extra couple tenths down the straightaway.
Imola is, I think it's tricky because it's a rather technical racetrack, and to agree with you with the rhythm, you have to be on the rhythm, and how you approach some of these corners can be very, very tricky in how you balance the cars. And you're right, you got to stay in the racing groove, you got to stay in the racing rhythm, and if you overstep any of these kind of limits with either the braking zones into the chicanes or even just the apex speeds going into some of these corners, you find yourself out in the dirty part of the racetrack. And when you got somebody like JP Alfonso right behind you only a half second, a small misstep or miscalculation like that is all it takes to slip him right on by for a position.
That's got to put the pressure on for Salazar as a whole, as the leader of these two drivers in this championship battle, or rather on the track, should say, so far. And the interesting thing I've noticed, too, is just the approach these two drivers have been taking. Salazar's been trying to dime it off into the middle of these apexes, trying to rub against the curbing. Fonzo's been trying to do it a little bit more where he doesn't rub as much of the curbing. So there's two different approaches, even in the midst of some of these tight sections, like the Rubianza we just seen.
And I'm wondering if we're going to see Paul Gibson start to stretch this out. Paul Gibson has not been a regular championship runner here in this Ignite series. He's found his way in for the last handful of races and has really helped elevate the competition out here. And looks like his pace is starting to come in. Fastest lap of a 42.7. Not as fast as JP Alfonso. However, the consistency of that is really starting to set in right now.
I think the experience that Paul Gibson has as a whole on the platform maybe started really kick into high gear with how consistent he's been early on in this machine. So we'll have to keep an eye if he's going to be able to keep this up once some of the drivers see the fall off. Keep in mind, he's somebody that does have real-world racing experience with the Mazda Motorsports Development Program and is one of the original iRacing users of the platform.
And I'm pretty impressed with this battle with JP. He's, Now, hang on. Before I get to that, Justin, it's a little early to talk about it, but I want to foreshadow just a little bit of thought of strategy. We're going to see pit stops here. We're going to have mandatory one tire stop. And I know it's early now, but we're going to see it come into effect. We might see an overcut, undercut opportunity, and we'll just have to keep our eyes on how these competitors approach their pit strategy.
Seen it with the race analysis brought to you by Maconi Setup Shop during the run-up to the green flag. They have to take one stop with the tires. It's the big thing of when these tires settle on in, so we'll have to keep an eye on when they elect to take those tires if they want to try the Contra.
It'll be interesting, and we have to remember the tire warm-up phase, and the other thing is in-lap plus out-lap and your stop is always considered, so as a driver, it's really the full picture of that pit stop, and also, if you're going to try to save gas out there, you got to do it from lap 1, and here we're getting increasing pressure from this Porsche of JP Alfonso on the back of Juan Salazar. Now, Justin, let's talk a little bit about points championship, because JP doesn't necessarily have to get up there and pass Juan right now, does he?
No, he doesn't. If he wanted to, he can just let him pull him around the racetrack. But if it comes to the opportunity where Salazar gets to where he's holding him up, I think you do it. So, to put it simply, right now, Alfonso could choose whatever he wants to really do here. He doesn't really have to force the issue on him. He just has to keep up with him, if anything, if he wants to have a shot at the second place finish.
And yeah, it's kind of an interesting predicament for a race car driver to be in as he takes a big look down into one of the final sections here with a late lunge on the brakes. And I tell you what, let's go ahead. Let's ride on board for a lap here with JP Alfonso in his Porsche as he tries to attack the back of Juan Salazar. Well, looks like Juan Salazar was actually able to stretch it out just a little bit after a couple close moments there with JP Alfonso taking a look at that position number 2. But Justin, we mentioned it, JP doesn't have to get up there and pass Juan Salazar. It's probably better, wiser, smarter to play this long game.
And it's always been emphasized, especially at the highest levels, follow the team strategy, think the big picture, get yourself in position to be in front in turn at the end of the race. You can be on front as much as you want at this point. But the difficult part in that is, well, there's still 48 minutes to go. That's not a guarantee that you'll have the spot in 48 minutes. It comes down to how you play out the strategy by the end of those 48 minutes on how these positions sort themselves out.
48 minutes to go, and I want to draw our attention back to the 4th place car because things are staying pretty even up at the front right now. Now, this is Giancarlo Schliemann. If you remember, he started up in the 2nd place position, but had problems, went off the racetrack there in the first series of corners, but he's got this purple Lamborghini pretty hooked up, and I believe currently has our fastest lap of the race at a 142.4. He's been laying them down out there and slowly but surely hunting down JP Alfonso. He's only about 3 seconds back right now, so Still a handful of laps out of JP Alfonso, but I tell you what, if Schliemann goes up there and passes Alfonso, then JP might start to get a little bit more nervous about the points situation.
I think it'll be at least a little bit. I will agree on that. So, but right now, still Alfonso would be in a decent spot, per se. Big picture. The more intriguing thing when it comes to Schliemann's case right now is, remember, he was off in the sand trap, coming off the second, third, and fourth corners, coming out of Tamburello. And yet, compared to what happened at Spa, this time, no issues so far with the pedals, no damage on the race car. And this is, in turn, a huge, huge thing to be able to keep pushing. He's eating incident points, I will say, because he ran 2/10 quicker than his best, but it was with incident points that made it invalidated for the personal best lap. So at this point, Schliemann's saying, I'm going to use up these incident points a little bit for now, with the 25 incident point cap, and see if I can go, and get myself back in contention long term.
And I was just looking at that, actually. Yeah, you're right. 25x is what each competitor has before they have a penalty applied to them. And then the DQ at the 35. And here at Imola, we've been talking about the chicanes a lot, especially, Justin, you mentioned them when we were covering the track earlier. And it is so easy to run out wide, collect those 1x's, or jump the apex curbs just a little bit and start collecting those. And over the course of a 60-minute race, crewment of those, at least I know I have a problem getting way too many of those.
Yeah, at some racetracks, they seem to stack up really, really quickly. Let's put it that way. This is one of those that's in the in-between marks, and keep in mind, it's also a track with its special off-track rules for certain sections where you go off the racing surface. So there's a lot you have to keep in mind. Take, for example, where they're running off towards this section. Off to the left side, if you end up going over that edge of the red and white curbing, fully just about, that's an incident point. Schliemann just about went over that full curbing. So you have to be careful of that and read through those details to know, okay, where are the exact limits? Where can I go without getting an incident point to be able to push like he's doing?
Well, and as a driver, you have to also be aware of the apex curbs. Now, you were talking about the exit curbs. Those are so crucial for getting the run out onto the straightaway. However, if you cut the apex curbs too much here at Imola, you can actually accrue a time penalty. iRacing, the system will say, hey, you know what? You got a slowdown penalty because you essentially cut the track too much, and they'll make you go ahead and slow down out there on track. And actually, I haven't seen anybody accrue one of those time penalties yet, which is actually pretty popular here at Imola.
Yeah, now, not too many major track cuts when it comes to the tight slowdown sections. Tamburello, you have the Variante Alta that as well, that pops up to mind. So the drivers have been fairly disciplined. I will say I was surprised Schliemann didn't pick up some damage with how hard he hit the sausage curbs that last couple sections. He is just about back in drafting distance for the top two.
Well, and you mentioned that he's been getting those incident points, and he just laid down a screamer of a lap, 142.0 out of that Lamborghini. But I'm looking, there it goes. It did register as fastest lap there, and so that means it was a clean lap. Giancarlo Schliemann starting to get things in line out there, and Justin, you mentioned it, now in drafting distance behind JP Alfonso. And not only is he behind JP Alfonso in that drafting distance, JP has actually closed it up just a little bit, not a ton, but a few car lengths on Juan Salazar, so they're all kind of within drafting distance of each other. We'll have to see if a DRS train forms, or if this Lamborghini really is that hooked up on the racetrack.
I kind of get the pun you're making, but these cars don't have DRS, first of all. But second, in regards to that, I think right now, too, the major thing I'm noticing, the fall-off was a question mark for some of the drivers. A couple drivers are starting to struggle with the tires. Alfonso and Salazar are the two of them that have started to show some slippage and some drop back for a bit. The driver who hasn't, outside of Gibson again, is the one we'd be keeping on, the purple and black Lamborghini closing in. At this point, if you're Alfonso, just let him slide.
I agree with you. I think look big picture, be smart about what's going on the racetrack around you, and don't put yourself in danger. You know, if you put yourself in a hazardous situation, you kind of only have yourself to blame here. And here we are riding on board with Giancarlo. He is now under half second back from JP, so Alfonso has to start to watch his mirrors. Be careful when this Lamborghini is starting to poke his nose, and be aware of any late lunges that are going to be coming out of this number 10 car. Make sure to give wide entry berths if you're worried about him taking a late move at all. And here we see, actually, they're racing pretty clean. Giancarlo Schliemann waiting for the best possible opportunity to get up alongside JP. And if you ask me, that is really how you execute a pass properly.
Watch the stern in particular, the difference. Look at the mirror section. Alfonso struggling with some push. Here comes the move.
Yep, here comes Schliemann. Big block out of JP. Actually, that was JP moving out of the racing line to let Schliemann by. He ran very, very wide out there through that series of corners. He knew he couldn't hold up Schliemann anymore and wisely let Giancarlo by.
I think Alfonso missed the braking board. He was way past the 50 board on that entry, and by the time he realized it just went off that track. Still, though, Schliemann didn't really impede him all too much. Now he's under 4 seconds back of the leader. Next up is Salazar.
And I think if you're JP Alfonso right now, like you mentioned, Justin, he's not in a bad spot. He's still in a championship-winning spot. And with the speed out of this Lamborghini, I think Schliemann's going to go up and challenge Juan Salazar here soon enough. And JP Alfonso might just be in that same position that he was in a few laps ago, being only one spot away from his closest championship rival. And here we see all these cars go through the first series of the chicanes here. Still, Paul Gibson way out front. He's got a 3-second gap over Juan Salazar right now, and seems like he's still laying down some consistent laps as Juan Salazar goes off the track, a self-mistake, and loses 2 positions.
Had to wonder when one of those mistakes would come in. Salazar knew we'd have to win up the racetrack the previous section as well. Just it looked like way too much speed, and once again, mistakes really starting to come in bunches for some of these drivers.
Well, JP Alfonso now in a great position for the championship as we catch this replay. Justin, looked like just a little bit too much apex speed here.
Yep, absolutely. Way too much on the speed all the way up through the entire section of Villeneuve. And Salazar, a good job to be able to keep it off the tire wall, but that's going to be fairly costly in regards to a battle for this podium position.
Well, yes, you're right. That's the last podium position in JP Alfonso there in the 3rd place. So if you want to spray some champagne today, Juan Salazar is going to have to get on the proverbial horse and get back galloping to this battle. And actually pretty impressed with JP Alfonso as look at this. We've got our 2 championship contenders taking their pit stop at the same time.
That's a little bit earlier than expected based on previous rounds. Did notice that the field limit around 45% tonight. But these drivers, it's the matter of do they take the tire stop. Don York and Justin Knapp both took 22 seconds of their stops, and Salazar had to back up and is still having problems with the gears.
Oh no, looks like we'll see how they get away here. Looks like they're both up on the stands right now. The Porsche of JP Alfonso, he's the lead car. Juan Salazar came in, and remember, that's how they came into pit road. And looks like the Porsche of JP Alfonso just that slight bit quicker, like you were mentioning, JP. Maybe that Ferrari, did you see him have to back up a little bit?
Just a touch bit. Noticed he was going back and forth in his gear from first gear to reverse, back and forth. And now Salazar just barely is holding onto the draft despite the strong entry. Not as good pit exit. Lost at least half a second.
Well, and I mentioned it earlier, it's not just your pit stop, but it's the in-lap and out-lap, and got to stop on your box nice and clean. And it's really tough because those aren't necessarily the things that you practice as a racing car driver when you say, all right, I'm going to go get ready for Imola. right? We're going to go do laps. We're going to focus on our car setup. We're going to get our race strategy down on when we're going to pit and make sure the math is all good. But we oftentimes overlook just the simple things of entering pit road and stopping on your box. And look at what that does. It cost Juan Salazar. He's now over 1 second back from that Porsche.
Yeah, and he kicked it out a little bit again, the Porsche. Both of them are struggling with the incident points at this point, too. Nearly both of them off an Aqua Minerale. That's how quick they're overcooking it.
Yeah, and, I'm going to eat my own words here because Juan Salazar lost some time, but in this outlap, he has taken chunks out of JP Alfonso right now, currently less than half a second back. And Justin, I think we might see a little bit of tire warm-up coming into play. Both of these cars were up on the air jacks, which means they did take those tires.
Both of them on cold tires, and that's going to be very tricky on that outlap if you're not used to it, if you're not able to get that full grip up. And at this point, Alfonso knows it's now drafting time. Salazar, if he can get enough of a run, may have a shot to make this pass back.
And here we come, down into the infamous Botas area down here, but they stay single file. Juan Salazar applying the pressure all over the back of this number 996 car. Remember, folks, this is the championship battle. JP Alfonso leads the way. Juan Salazar, P2 in the championship. So if there's any implications of cars going off track and getting into the tire wall right here, this could have a huge championship battle difference.
And it's going to be critical to consider if any other drivers have major issues. That also has a potential championship implication. Don York, I believe, has just had to tow his car, though, and that could have a major championship implication where there would be only one driver left in terms of trouble spots. Speaking of pit stops.
Yep, here is our leader. And yeah, Justin, you're right. Don York just lost it all by himself in that same corner that Juan Salazar ran wide and had to take that tow. And see if we get this replay here. He just gets too far out. Driver's right in this dirty area. You see the car all yawed out. Big Formula Drift moment. Unfortunately, doesn't have the counter steer ability and slides it off into the tires.
Yeah, at that point, after the smash to the nose, elected to tow, and in turn, depending on if he gets back into the race, that leaves 6 drivers running at least currently. And that is absolutely huge in the case of Alfonso if there's trouble spots. But no troubles for the top 2. In fact, Schliemann is closing quickly even on the access road, all the way back to the track.
Yeah, and I think they were up around 4 seconds, maybe 3.5 to 4 seconds coming in to that pit stop. And Schliemann has cut that under 3 seconds. I'm seeing almost 2.5 seconds. So that Lamborghini, fast in-lap, fast out-lap from what it seems so far, and really good stop and timing in the box.
Yeah, Schliemann's been nearly untouchable in terms of his comeback so far, but the tough thing's going to be, can he apply the pressure to Gibson? And better question, can he handle the cold tires? Gibson was much quicker on the cold tires to start off the race compared to some of the others. Alfonso and Salazar still near nose-to-nose again.
And here comes Salazar applying the pressure into a very tricky downhill brake zone. JP Alfonso, however, gets that launch out in the Porsche, gets the weight down on that back end, and look at that thing scoot up the hill. But really impressed with Juan Salazar. It's not easy when you make a mistake, especially a self-inflicted mistake like he did and went all 4 wheels off into the gravel. It can be tough to get the pace going again, but Juan Salazar in his Ferrari shows he wants to get back up onto that podium today.
At the very least, you want to end off the season on the podium, right? Because it's a track that, if we remember correctly from last time out, there was some indication that they may or may not have liked Imola more so than not. So this is one of those tracks where if you can finish on the podium, it's a good day for both of these drivers. Of course, it'd be bigger as the champion in Salazar's case. But still, you want to finish the season as that driver in the top 3 to be able to celebrate.
It's always great to have that momentum, and to end it, to end a championship with that momentum. It's kind of like the bragging rights all the way till the next season starts. It's not just till next week when you have the race, but usually it lasts a little bit. So you're right. I love that feeling, and to carry that into the offseason, always good in the tummy.
Hold on 1 second. Just indicated by Don York, there is a competition coming up soon on the clock. So that may be coming in the near future. He's just told the competition that caution could be a factor, and that could majorly play implications here in that battle for the lead.
Great catch, and I do remember seeing that Don York was saying about 25 minutes into this race, we're going to have a competition caution, and that's right about where we're at right now. Kind of waited for all of the cars to do their pit stop cycles, I think, which is, if you ask me, it's the fair and right thing for race control to do. That way you don't catch a single competitor out and maybe benefit one or hurt another out there. He's making sure that it's a level, even playing ground for all of the competitors out there, as we still see Juan Salazar just tucked up under the back wing of JP Alfonso, and I'm not getting tired of saying these names, but the battle, it still rages on.
And Salazar trying to just find ways to pressurize the mistake more so at this point. Not close enough to make a realistic lunge, not close enough to be able to send things around forward. Just settle down. Just think about this. Just try and position yourself if you want to make this move. It's the simple case. And especially knowing that the pits have just been closed, there's a lot to consider. The interesting thing, though, is everyone's closing on Gibson. Gibson has fallen off a cliff the past few laps.
Yeah, and so I know that Paul Gibson is a very savvy racer. He's very aware of what's going on, and I wonder if his pace has fallen off, or if he's saving tire, or if he's picked up damage from maybe jumping chicane somewhere, and he has lost pace with the car, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a mixture of at least two of those. More so probably the saving, because the more you can save tire, the better, right? You don't want to end up pushing so hard that you end up evening, if not being a little bit quicker to the car in front, then you have that deflating feeling of the cutoff point, and then finding out, oh no, I burned up all my stuff, and then you end up being a second a lap off the pace. It happens in a road. It happens a ton in oval. It can happen to anyone.
You're right, and look at this. Juan Salazar very, very close to JP Alfonso. He might be close enough here to make a move going down into turn one, and look at this. Just as he's close enough, we get the full course yellow on the racetrack, and you see Salazar make the move. He's going to have to give that back to JP, but oh my goodness, Justin, just as it was getting going, the yellow flag comes out.
Just as both the battles heated up. Drivers have been told they can pin under the caution. That's going to be the interesting part of this. Depending on how long it takes for them to get around the track here, they may be able to maybe try and save it to get to the end here.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking, what if Paul Gibson was saving fuel? He knows the competition caution's coming out. He can save even more fuel in this situation. Do you think that maybe some of these cars could stretch it? Because how far do they make it? About 14 laps, I think, is what they went on their green flag stop?
Correct. And if anything, I'd top off here. I'd come down as soon as the pit road is open. Once you reach the safety car, get that pace lap down for the quickie caution, top off on the fuel, and see if you can stretch to get to the end. Because if it's about a 14 or 15 estimated lap to go when the green flag flies, it gets really interesting how the strategy plays out. If it's 16 or 17, it's probably a splash and dash at the end of the race. You want to be in position for either or, I think, at this point. And so it's just a matter. Get to the pace car, get to situate yourself, get yourself in a spot where you know what the plan is here.
Looks like all of our leaders will, in fact, stay out right now. And Justin, the other thing that we have to consider is the length of this yellow. Now, I believe iRacing yellows, we get gathered up behind the pace car here. We get pits open for lead lap cars, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, do we get one more pits open for cars one lap down, and then we go green? Yeah?
I think that's more so in the discretion race control, as Justin Knapp, I think, is going to avoid that point. He just got the wave. But to the discussion point, there's a lot to consider in terms of that. So, drivers are being told next time by, but drivers can come into the pit stops the next time around when they come to the flag stand. So I think based on the timing we've seen in the past, you can legitimately, if you save a bit, make it to the end if you top off during this caution.
Well, and the strategist in me, my brain is going right now, and it kills me to not know a few of these variables. I hear them talking on the radio, but I can't quite make out exactly what they're saying. And this caution flag is crucial with the time left on the clock. Remember, they're doing minute 40 something in terms of green flag lap. However, under safety car lap, this is going to be more like a 3+, maybe even 4-minute pace car lap. So we're looking at going back racing with under 20 minutes to go.
In the major, then I again want to emphasize, guess what? How far did the driver stretch it the furthest out? Around 34 minutes to go on the clock. That's around 26 minutes. So if I'm any of these drivers, come in this time. If you don't come in, I don't think that would be the winning move based on the data.
I totally agree with you. I think that if you don't take your cheap and easy stop now under the yellow flag, you're just setting yourself up for a giant mountain to climb that you're never going to be able to overcome unless somebody makes a mistake and throws it off of the track out there.
The big question is going to be, how does Schliemann handle the pressure? Now being bunched back up again. He was about to pass by Gibson, I think, the next lap or two, if the caution didn't come in. Better question. How does Alfonso handle this? How does Salazar handle this? All bunched back up. They were all closing in on Gibson, who had been saving prior to that. Now we're about to see what the cards are lined, and there goes... Wow!
Very interesting here. Now, yeah, so with all the numbers that we have in front of us, okay, this is the right call. This is Paul Gibson, Schliemann coming down, as well as Nick Sorensen. Now, we haven't mentioned Nick Sorensen really at all in the broadcast, but he is on the lead lap here in this number 20 BMW, and looks like he is going to top it off with fuel. So I would gotta think that these three cars in pit lane are your potential podium finishers right now.
Yeah, I think at this point, Alfonso and Salazar just cost themselves the podium unless they plan to come in the next time by, because you're right about the 20 minutes to go. You're going to be able to make it at 20 minutes to go. I wonder if there's something with the fuel mapping or something in how they've been burning the fuel, because they, remember, went 2 laps earlier than the entire field. I wonder if there's something where they feel like they'll end up burning more fuel and might be a little bit more tighter compared to the others who have been a bit more fuel conscious.
Well, and this is the part of sim racing that is so different than real racing, and the entire weight of the strategy and the race decisions are on the driver. You know, if you don't have a friend to be your crew chief or your strategist or spotter, you're alone in the car right now in the sim, making these decisions on the fly with the information that you have. And some of these competitors have third-party apps to help them out. Not everyone does, and I think that's a huge bridge that we forget about, is these guys out there on the racetrack are making those real-time race decisions too.
And I think it's going to be critical now with how this is now played out, as I believe Justin Knapp has crashed under caution, to make sure you take a breath. Make sure you don't have the trouble spot. Because again, if they can't come down in this respective spot, there is a tiebreaker that was mentioned. And essentially, if Alfonso finishes dead last out of these drivers still left in 6th spot, I should say, and Salazar wins, tiebreaker is Salazar. In fact, I should say, amongst the top 2. If there's a tie, it's Salazar's championship. So, if you're Alfonso, the main thought is, if you just make sure you keep up. At this point, the more concern, though, I think is, do you get a pit road close penalty if you come in this time by? Because that may also cost whoever one of those two come in.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting situation. I know the pace car lights are still on, right? So we're not going to be going back to green this time, but let's watch. Does JP Alfonso and then the Ferrari behind him come down to pit road this time? Or do they truly make their bed out here on the racetrack and settle things out? And it was a late move to come to pit road from Paul Gibson, but no. Both of them once again stay out on the racetrack. And unless they know something that we don't know, yeah, it might be giving away the podium chances. They'll stay together on the racetrack in terms of their championship battle, so that'll still be settled between the two, if you will, in terms of bragging rights. Tough for Juan Salazar to make up those points if he's not battling for positions, which is the only downside I really see. But in terms of the restart, this is going to put a lot of fast cars right behind the two that want to keep it the most clean.
I think Salazar and Alfonso just realized what they just did too. Because the comment from Salazar to the radio, well, it was nice fun racing with y'all. So I think they just realized they've made their bed and the bed is in the wrong hotel.
They got the directions mixed up, Justin.
Yeah. So yeah, this is now basically, for them, it's the battle for 5th and 6th. Gibson it's going to be fun for the battle for the win, though.
Yes, it will be a fun battle for the win between Gibson, Schliemann, and also Sorensen, who's inserted himself into the mix based off of that strategy. But I just want to say that JP Alfonso and Juan Salazar, I know that they're great buddies here on the sim. They've competed together all season long, and I would say that even if these two end up off of the podium and have this weird track position call where they're just the two battling it out by themselves, they are still going to be happy to race each other for these final few laps in this final, call it 20 minutes of the championship.
Yeah, this has been a fairly fun season, to say the very least. Lots of intriguing drivers taking part. And in turn, it's been very fun in turn to see the battle between Alfonso and Salazar. Of course, Salazar's been the more consistent in terms of getting to victory lane, but Alfonso's been the more consistent on finishing the car where it needs to be in a championship position. And when Alfonso broke through for that victory, we know how emotional, how big that was for him for that 996. Now, it's time to ride for 19 more minutes.
Gonna be just about that. It's actually gonna be just under probably 19 minutes by the time these cars take the green flag. Now, they're gonna get lined up, I believe. We'll see if they get 2x2 or single file here. Looks like race control has changed the restart to a double file. We'll see if it actually goes through here for these racers, because that is really gonna bunch things up. It's gonna be just like lap 1 again. Some of these cars, actually, no, all of these cars are still on used tires, so we won't have the cold tire dilemma as long as they've kept it clean out there. And we're watching the number 996, JP Alfonso, in that Porsche. Clever number plate for that car. Safety car comes down pit road. Salazar trying to get a jump on things as they get lined up 2x2. Waiting for this green flag to come out from Barney the flagman. You see it very, very late, still holding it, and looks like The Porsche is finally on the gas, and we've actually got a really good jump from Giancarlo Schliemann in this purple Lamborghini, but it's Alfonso and Salazar side by side down into the chicane with Paul Gibson taking a look, and still side-by-side battle. It comes out Ferrari versus Porsche, Salazar on top.
Gibson wanting to go, a massive block. Gibson doesn't want to back out of it.
Almost contact between the Ferrari and Porsche there, and now Gibson with a big over-under move, going to take it late on the brakes, but JP Alfonso hanging tough on the inside. It's going to be a drag race, but the track position goes to the 996.
Don't think this is over, though. Gibson's a little bit quicker right now. We've talked about this on the starting blocks. There he goes.
Slices it down to the inside, and here comes Schliemann with a huge head of steam. He takes away the position as well, and things are starting to fall apart for JP Alfonso. Look at this. Nick Sorensen now on the back of this Porsche, and Juan Salazar, his championship rival, 2.5 seconds down the road.
Yeah, this is an absolute nightmare with the timing of all of this right now for Alfonso. Schliemann, though, a little bit of a check up there. Nick Sorensen needs to be able to get around, or rather, Salazar needs Sorensen to get around Alfonso for the time being to see how things play out here with about 10 estimated laps to go this time.
Things could not have worked out better for Juan Salazar and worse for JP Alfonso right now, as he's kind of in a hot seat back there in his 4th place, but we'll see. Here comes JP Alfonso. He's going to come down, take this pit stop right now. We're going to have to see when Juan Salazar decides to do the same, but this was that call that we were waiting for under the yellow.
Alfonso just got massive speeding penalties there. The speeding penalty, remember, is 50 miles an hour, the limiter. At the cone, he got below it. Then he gassed up to 60 down the middle of the pit lane.
No, I wonder if he clicked the pit lane limiter one too many times and forgot which one was the activate, deactivate, and you're right, a black flag right now, and I think race control has inserted himself. Don York might be saying, hey, you know what, get back out on the racetrack.
And from my understanding, they have given the green light for Juan Salazar if he wants to do the same and speed a bit. Here's the thing of the timing of that clear, though. Alfonso did not get it cleared in time. He's going to have to sit here.
Yeah, that's right. Even though race control said get on out there, the penalty was already going, so JP Alfonso had to sit there the entire time during that time penalty, and this is massive, Justin.
Again, if anything happens up front with any other drivers, this may fall right into Salazar's lap. Salazar's still the leader for now, but he too has to pit soon. So this is absolutely huge for the championship.
He stays out one more lap. Going to be working 14 minutes to go now. Can the number 1 Ferrari stretch it on fuel? I don't think it's mathematically possible, but I think if he wants a chance at the championship, he's got to try to do something in stretching it, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Again, he needs a lot to fall his direction right now. He needs just enough to have the best final laps of the season for that 80 car. He needs to be able to pass several cars after having to come to the pit lane and somehow reel them in for about 30 seconds back. He needs a lot to fall his way, but anything is possible in sports, right?
Anything is possible indeed, and one thing's for sure, Juan Salazar has actually turned up the pace quite a bit. He's maintained that 2-second gap in front of Paul Gibson, which, if we remember, Paul Gibson was definitely one of the faster cars. I think it's been kind of the Lamborghini that's been the class of the field, but Paul Gibson has led the most amount of laps, and here we're riding on board with Giancarlo Schliemann in that Lamborghini as he's applying pressure to the back of the Ferrari, which I think ultimately will be your race leader once the strategy plays out.
I think there is a chance right now, absolutely, that Schliemann might be able to actually find a way around Gibson for the net advantage more so. I think it's more so the patience game. Gibson turning up the pressure. Schliemann keeping his intensity right up. Schliemann's got Gibson right where he needs him for the overall win likely here. Salazar, estimated to go another 2 laps at most based on the window, maybe 3 or 4.
Here's Schliemann in a really good position, looking down into turn 1, not quite close enough to make it on the brakes, but stays in the tire tracks of Paul Gibson, and these two are laying down some really fast laps. In fact, Giancarlo Schliemann last time around 1 minute 41.7. That's the first car we've seen in the 1 minute 41 range.
Yeah, I think that's just telling one of the pace that Schliemann is trying to push with that draft, and 2, just that comfortability at this point. Huge news in the case of Justin Knapp, by the way. He's let JP Alfonso go for 5th, so now Salazar's goal for the title even harder. He needs to somehow find a magic fuel-saving tree, or somehow find a way around Gibson, Schliemann, and Sorensen after the stop.
I'm trying to picture what a magic fuel-saving tree would look like as Schliemann is still trying to get past Gibson. Is it like an old-timey pump with the pumps like all the handles hanging out? Here comes Schliemann.
Schliemann just able to line this up for the draft. Might be looking outside already. Defensive Gibson. There it goes.
Oh, took a look but thought better of it. And here's Salazar off the track. All 4 wheels in the gravel, and this is huge because JP Alfonso got that time penalty. Now Salazar off the track, and let's keep our eyes peeled on this Lamborghini as he's going to be side by side for our race lead.
Gibson having to play defensive here. Schliemann has struggled on this outer groove in the passes before.
Not quite far enough alongside, and excellent defensive track positioning from the Ferrari of Paul Gibson. Just put his car right where he needed it to be. The Lamborghini couldn't find a way around, and as they entered the corner, the Lamborghini just had to back out of things, but 10.5 minutes remaining. There's still plenty of time for Giancarlo Schliemann to gather it back up and try for another attempt at our leader.
Yeah, I think that's the major emphasizing point. Cool it on the tires to touch pit. Stay within the 1 second. Stay within the 1 second to be able to set it up. But in realistic positioning, Schliemann has probably 2 or 3 realistic chances, depending on if Gibson slides up. If Gibson slides up, that number increases. So it's going to be critical.
We'll have to keep our eyes peeled on this one because Lamborghini certainly seems to have had the paces. Paul Gibson runs pretty wide through that final chicane, and Justin, we mentioned the off tracks earlier. I believe that's actually one of the areas that if you run too far off track on the exit, you could potentially get a slowdown penalty.
Yeah, that's something also to massively consider here with how close they are to the edge of this racetrack. So they have to be considerate of how this goes. How considerate of how wide you're willing to take it, and also how many X's have you already lit on fire in this race in terms of incident points.
It's kind of dwindling down, you know. You start with so many at the beginning, and then right now with less than 10 minutes to go, you're kind of counting off how many you got left and how many you can ration per lap. At least that's how I usually look at it.
Yeah, and that's something actually a lot of the top teams consider too, is how many can I bank on if it comes down to it, or you really don't want to end up being the driver, realistically speaking, that burns them all up at the end of the race, sportsmanlike. But here's a big twist. Nick Sorensen has just had to tow the car.
Oh my goodness. We'll see if we can get a replay here exactly on top of it. Our producer, Eddie Smith, look at, here we got Sorensen just by himself. I think it's the curbs. You see him hit those apex curbs, and the car just gets really unsettled and heavy impact into the wall.
The more I see incidents like that, the more I am imagining some of fellow race commentators who have said they don't like the curves and would disassemble them themselves if they could, going out there and disassembling them. Simple as that. Just a little bit too much of the left side curbing taking too much of it, bounces off the springs, back it goes into the wall.
Well, and I think also here in the sim world, Justin, is that we struggle with the feel of the car and how it reacts. So when it bounces and lands, it's just really tough to catch the car. And here comes Schliemann once again in a really, really good opportunity, tucked up underneath the rear wing of the Ferrari of our leader. See if he can pop out. He has to go driver's right, which is not the place he wants to be, but a bigger lunge on the brakes this time. Lamborghini officially makes it side by side, and we got a little bit of contact for the lead between Gibson and Schliemann. And look at this. Schliemann is actually going to slow down on the racetrack. I hear him on the radio apologizing.
Oh my goodness.
I think Paul Gibson is gone.
Paul Gibson, I think, just left thinking he wasn't going to get the spot back. And now Schliemann's now the race lead. Wow. Never.
I'm not sure about that one.
I don't think Gibson realized that Schliemann was going to give him the lead back.
I don't think so either. And I know that it's tough with, 9 minutes or so left. I'm sorry, 6 minutes or so left to have the contact for the lead. But Giancarlo Schliemann did the right thing. There's just the slightest bit of contact. We're going to get the replay here as we see Lamborghini make a full lunge around the outside, get properly alongside the Ferrari, and we're going to see the contact point here. And, ooh, Justin, looks like heavy net code on the damage. Really unfortunate for both parties.
Yeah, I think they may have potentially would have touched regardless of that scenario because you could see just the angle of the turn.
Yep.
Not much you can do if you're Schliemann there at that point. A little bit because it's the battle for the race win. But again, Schliemann was absolutely ready to just give him the race lead back. He was parking to the side, and then Paul Gibson doesn't realize this, think he just got sent off, just says, you know what, I'm done.
Yep.
And I think he's going to think back and say, okay, maybe I should have waited an extra 5 seconds to see what Schliemann was about to do on the track.
Well, and I think Schliemann would have appreciated that as well and battle it out for the race lead rather than just take home the victory, because I agreed with everything that you said. Schliemann didn't do anything wrong there, and actually we got a problem. Was this Salazar going off track?
Oh, that is way off the track, and now JP Alfonso wants to still race him for second here, just saying, you know what? I'll let you have a shot again.
Now, I saw this develop. We were watching the lead battle, but I tell you what, Juan Salazar slowed down on track purposely to let his friend JP Alfonso catch up so that way they could race it out here for the final 5 minutes of this championship. And I would like to keep the camera right here because these two, when one mistake is made, they say, all right, you know what? I'm going to raise my hand, slow down. Come on, let's get racing again and have a fun time.
And now, well, first of all, you could basically at this point say it's a false championship as the entire field is imploded behind them. But second, why not? Why not have fun? These two are good friends on the track. Why not battle it out, see which one is the best of the best in the closing stages?
I totally agree, and I think it's just great sportsmanship. It's great camaraderie to build, and here we go. Juan Salazar in the Ferrari starting to put the pressure on the back of this Porsche of JP Alfonso. We mentioned it, less than 5 minutes left, and looks like they're starting to struggle just a little bit on those tires.
This is around that cutoff point. These drivers started to struggle a little bit before. So I'm not surprised to see some of the really, really loose stuff starting to pop up here. If anything, Salazar not keeping up as well compared to Alfonso, who's gripping it up well on the racetrack for these final 4 minutes of the season.
And let's not forget about the pace. Juan Salazar currently 42.0 in terms of the best lap logged. JP Alfonso 42.6. So JP Alfonso has not been able to find the outright pace in that Porsche that Juan has in that Ferrari behind him. But right now, it's all about the track positioning and setting yourself up for just a couple more laps to round out this championship.
Very curious what happens when they go side by side. We've seen how fierce they've been trying to battle here and there throughout the day. Some of the door scrapes they've had a couple times here and there. With some of the side by sides, even right before the caution rather. I think if you're Salazar, you say, I want to pass you. I want to at least finish in front of you to end out this season.
And this is the section of the racetrack that I've been noticing that Salazar is pretty good at. See if he's able to keep the front end underneath the Ferrari here through these sections of turns. He lost it last lap, but he's really close here. Does he make a lunge going into the brake zone? Follows the Porsche one more time, but crucially, much better through the apex here and closer off on this exit.
Still, it's not close enough to be able to get to a passing section. Really, your main spot's down the front stretch, right? Or this!
There it is. Salazar battling it out and takes the power move. If we remember, that's been a problem area, drifting out wide, missing your brake markers there, and it's so easy to overstep the limit, especially over that crest.
It's happened to them, both of them, in fact, a lot today, where they've just gone very slippy sliding around the racetrack, very loose around the racetrack. But it's going to be a fun 2 laps, I think, to see if Alfonso can get any momentum back on Salazar or force Salazar a mistake. Or he can have struggles on that corner apex again that he's been having troubles in Rabiazza today.
And Justin, I feel a bit like a commentary noob over here, but we haven't even mentioned the temperature. These cars have been slip sliding around. I'm seeing 110 degrees track temperature, so it is very warm on the surface for these cars.
It's been very warm throughout the race. Keep in mind, it's been constant weather conditions in the sim today, so it hasn't really moved compared to some of the other events you may see throughout the time. If it was 134, I'd be more concerned. At 110, it's decent. It's decently warm.
Well, and it's 70 degrees air temperature, so I agree with you. It is very pleasant out there, and we're going to keep the battle going. The camera's right here on the championship battle. I just want to let you all know that Giancarlo Schliemann just took the white flag, so he is on the last lap, and that will mean that these drivers will have one more full lap after they complete this one.
Oh, and a massive mistake, Salazar!
Oh no! We saw him go off there just a few laps ago in that exact same spot, but this time into the tire barrier.
And it doesn't look like Salazar is going to put the toe up there. Mandatory repairs to end the season.
Justin, he just carried a little bit too much speed going down the hill. You saw that's the first accident, okay? And he was able to save it off of the tires. And it is deja vu for the second one where he has the exact same problem. He just goes a little bit too fast down the hill here. You're going to see the 2 left tires dip into the grass and no saving it from there.
Yeah, 2 times, and not the way you want to end off the season. JP Alfonso electing to come down to the pit lane to end the race a lap early. Only 1 car outside of Justin Knapp is still running, and that's Schliemann.
Yeah, and he rounds the final corner. He's actually on the front straightaway right now. Your leader in the number 10 Lamborghini had some battles early on, but comes out on top. Giancarlo Schliemann, your winner here at the Ignite JP Alfonso GT3 Series at Imola. And looking for the other cars on track, I believe that JP Alfonso will be the only other car. My mistake, Justin Knapp is still out there. And let's keep it right here. JP Alfonso taking a championship victory lap.
Consistency wins championships. JP Alfonso, one of the most consistent drivers all season, with how he finishing on the podium per average, taking advantage of when Salazar had the slip-ups with the drop factored in too. Even with the 5 victories to Salazar, Alfonso's 1. Alfonso was just that extra bit more consistent at all the tracks. And that was just the major difference this season.
Some fierce racing throughout all of the races, and it really was between these two competitors when it came down to it, and great sportsmanship shown throughout. This really is just kind of a victory lap, a parade lap, if you will. I'm sure that if JP could, he'd have his hand out the window right now, waving to everybody as he rounds just these final couple corners here at Imola, and he's got that checkered flag, and with that checkered flag is going to come the championship trophy. JP Alfonso, your winner of the championship of this Ignite Racing League.
And what a wild season finale. I think you can all say it was. I think Alfonso's ready, though, for some donuts.
It's trickier than it looks in the GT3 cars. You got to get the traction control turned off, and there he goes. Now he's got it going. I do love the smell and taste of donuts.
Very well deserved on how he's performed all season, and just a little bit of damage to make sure it passes inspection.
That's the true racer in you. Yeah, you got to make sure it gets through tech legally, huh?
Anyhow, this was a pretty wild race to end the season, I'll just say that.
Yeah, it was, and we'll take a very quick break and be back just with the finishing results, and we're going to try to get a bunch of these competitors in here for this interview, and be right back. Well, you just witnessed the final round here of the JP Alfonso Studios GT3 series here on Maconi Entertainment, and it was Giancarlo Schliemann in that purple Lamborghini who ended up taking home the checkered flag tonight, but it was JP Alfonso taking home the big trophy, the championship trophy, coming home in the second place in the race. Justin Knapp, final spot on the podium, and big shout out to Justin because we didn't mention him a lot here on the broadcast, but final stop on the podium, third place. Juan Salazar, fourth, also second in the championship. Paul Gibson with the early retirement there comes home fifth. Nick Sorensen, sixth. Don York, several laps down, and then that was it for the 7 cars that were here at the Imola race. And now I'm pretty sure we've got one big giant party here in the commentary booth, but I want to start it off with our championship winner. We'll get to our race winner here in a minute, but JP Alfonso, step up to the front here. Congratulations, dude.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, now, it was an interesting race. A little bit of strategy played out on the racetrack there, but ultimately it was you and your buddy Juan Salazar fighting for this final race on the championship. And did you have the attitude coming in that you needed to win the race, or just that you were trying to finish ahead of Juan?
Well, we discussed what the worst case scenario will be, and we came up that I needed to finish fourth or greater. So I knew, by looking at the field, I knew that it was no point for me to, fight it out or try to push the car too much. This is a track that is very technical. It's almost impossible to go around the track without making a mistake and things like that. So I figured that I'm just gonna let it play out. The first two guys, they were, driving way too aggressive, and I just let them by because I knew that, my purpose was to finish either ahead of Juan or in the fourth position at the most. And well, at the end of the day, me and him, we were in the same channel on Discord, and we were talking to each other the whole entire race, and we tried to make it fair. We waited for each other, trying to make it interested, and well, I mean, I'm sure you guys saw the rest. So.
Oh yeah, we saw it all, and we were actually covering your battle there for the most part of the beginning half of the race, and then talk us through your pit lane entry there. Now, I know you guys have great sportsmanship. We saw you waiting for each other and ultimately battling it out on the racetrack, but that one was a bit of a doozy coming to pit road, wasn't it?
Yeah. I pushed the button and my pit limiter, for some reason, like I pushed it again by accident, and I got a penalty there. And but yeah, the administrator tried to clear it, but I serve it anyway. And that's it. That's pretty much that's what it was. Just like trying to look at all my information on the top screen. I missed the spit limit, and that's what happened. So.
Well, and I know that we're still going to have kind of this group chat here, if you will, but how did you think this first season on Maconi Entertainment for this GT3 series ended up for you? I thought that we had some great racing throughout the races, and here at the finale, it was one of the best races in terms of on-the-track action.
No, I mean we're very pleased with the way how this season came out. We actually in the talks for season two. So definitely season two is going to be a lot more interesting and more competitive. This being the first one, we didn't know what to expect. We have a mix of field, all different skill levels, and I see the guys trying to push themselves harder every race. People that used to be more in the mid pack back of the field, now they're a little more competitive. So I really like to see that, and definitely season two, we're gonna make it a lot harder. So that's for sure.
Well, congratulations on the championship. And I actually want to bring up Juan Salazar next because he was the second place points finisher, and going to hand it off to Justin to interview Juan.
Yes,
Okay.
Juan's not here at the moment.
Oh, is he not? I thought Juan was in here.
No,
I thought we were going to get...
Jose joined us for the top 3 in points.
Oh, okay. Well, Justin, take it away with Jose.
Well, Jose, you did not start the race tonight, but you still finished top 3 in the points. How are you feeling?
Very nice. It's the best thing ever happened to me. Finishing third and not running the last race. It's awesome. It's great. I'm in Mexico, so I don't have my team here. So I just watched the broadcast. You did an amazing job today, man. It was so fun to see the broadcast.
Well, in that regard, then, how is Mexico going?
Mexico is great. Mexico. I've been working the last 5 days, and I took the day off today, and I had to stay here with friends and so on. So very nice.
So in regards to the championship battle in itself, 2 victories on the campaign, an average finish of 6th, how would you describe your progression as the season went on, where you were also in the mix for a lot of other victories on top of the other 2?
Yeah, I had 2 victories, and I missed the chance in a couple of races that I was really quick there, but I spun in the first half of the race, so I lost my chances to fight Juan and JP. And looking forward for the next one and trying to be more consistent and not making as many mistakes. So I don't care what happens. I want to beat JP.
Well, in my opinion, you come out on top from the 2 of us, because you didn't race. You were in Mexico probably with a nice drink in your hand, and you finished in the podium. So you did better than the 2 of us. That's for sure.
Been amazing, guys. Looking forward for the next season.
Well, that was... Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Justin.
I was about to throw it to you.
Yeah, well, we're going to continue on with this interview here. We've got so many competitors here in the booth. I just want to make sure. It looks like we do have Giancarlo Schliemann in here. Now, Giancarlo, I want to bring you up to the front because you were the one who took home the race victory today, and congrats on that one.
Yeah, thank you. It was a bit of a scrappy start and a bit of a fight back, and then unfortunately, the pass in the end for the win didn't go very smoothly. Tried to stop, but unfortunately, Paul left the race. So it is what it is. It was fun battling.
Well, and I don't think that we fault you at all for any of the moves that we saw on the racetrack. And in fact, we saw you raise your hand after that little bit of contact netcode deal and say, hey, you know what? I want to race you for the lead and slow down. But unfortunately, Paul hit the disconnect there. But talk us through the race a little bit before that, because you had an issue on lap 1, but then you kept your head down the entire time. And ultimately, you're standing here on top.
Yeah, I am not really sure what happened coming out of turn 1, if it was maybe some contact or I just got on the gas a bit too early with some cold tires, but put it into the grass and then had to find some consistency and light a fire under my ass to keep me going, and was able to come back through, and then the caution brought everybody back together and made things interesting again.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on being the race winner here at Imola and consistently one of the fastest cars that shows up here and always gives it to JP Alfonso and these regular guys.
Well, here's to next season, keeping the races entertaining and the fights fun and competitive.
Awesome. Well, that was Giancarlo Schliemann, and now it finally looks like we do have Juan Salazar in the booth. Take it away, Justin.
Well, Juan, second in the championship, 5 victories, an average finish of 3rd. How are you feeling after the conclusion of this season's title?
I feel good. I want to congratulate JP. Much deserved championship. You know what I mean. Nobody gave him anything. Nobody gave him an inch, and he was, I think, the scrappiest racer all season. Always in the top 5. Always in the podium. So yeah, congratulations to him. Congratulations to Giancarlo for winning today. Yeah, I don't feel good about today, to be honest. I practiced for this race. I did not practice for a caution flag. That kind of completely threw my whole fuel strategy out the window. Um, I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm not a fan. Definitely not a fan. But I had fun. It was a good race. I had a little bit of a battle with JP. I enjoyed that. Little bit of contact with Giancarlo on lap 1. Which gave me a little bit of an advantage. I honestly don't know if I made a mistake there. If I did, apologies to Giancarlo. From my cockpit, it just looked like we didn't see where each other was. But yeah, it was a fun race until the caution flag for me, at least.
Yeah, I was about to ask, with that caution flag scenario, when the pit lane opened, what was kind of the thought process there? Because it was looking, I'm just curious, I should rather say, on your viewpoint or thought process once that lane opened.
So I didn't have really enough time to think about it. I'm not used to racing with a caution flag ever. You know what I mean? I don't race NASCAR. That's not my thing. So when the I saw the pit lane open, I have a fuel timer on my screen, and my fuel timer did not allow for another fueling stop and then finishing the race on that. And I go by that timer. You know what I mean? It might be a bad habit, but because of that, I didn't stop. And when I realized, as we were going around another 3 times after these guys went into the pits, I realized, I could have totally made it. But that's not something that even crossed my mind. I'm like, I thought when the pit stop at that point wouldn't give me enough fuel. So it is what it is. And then when I did stop, I didn't put enough fuel. So I was all out of sorts.
Oh, so you didn't have it. So now in that regard, after that, we did notice you allowed Alfonso, to get right back to you, was that the feel or was that the battle of the sportsmanship?
No, I didn't want to finish the race by myself. I really wanted to have a race with JP until the end, and I told JP, I'm gonna race you, so whoever wins wins, and so we did. We raced, and then the second to last lap, I realized I didn't have enough fuel to make it to the end. As I realized that, I went off track and hit the wall. So either way, I wasn't gonna finish the race.
Well, I don't know if this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing. JP Alfonso actually pit that exact same lap, so you both would have had to pit.
Yeah,
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 yeah, he
definitely.
probably had the same issue I did. I asked him because I thought, he probably was on the same boat I was. Um, yeah, yeah. Listen, I ended up crashing at the end. That's really what took me out. I wasn't planning on stopping because I was gonna run out of fuel. I ended up crashing because I got distracted thinking about fuel. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. Um, I guess I got what I deserve in the end. You know what I mean? I didn't drive that well. Got frustrated. Ended up hitting the wall. So I got what I deserved.
Well, thank you so much for the time. Once again, Juan, congratulations on second of the championship. Congratulations on the season high 5 victories, too.
Thank you, guys. You guys did an awesome job. I really appreciate what you guys did. So yeah, thanks all around. See you next time.
Well, got a few more in here, party style. We're going to bring up Justin Knapp next. Now, Justin, you finished on the final step of the podium here at Imola. Congrats on that third place finish.
Thank you, thank you. It was definitely a interesting race. That caution didn't help Juan, but it definitely helped me because it brought me back onto the lead lap, and then from there I ended up just keeping it somewhat clean and ended up getting a P3.
Well, now talk us through your race a little bit because I know it was a little bit of a lonely race back there, but you did what you needed to do. You kept it consistent and you come home on the podium here. And did you at least enjoy yourself in this season here with the Ignite series?
Oh, I always enjoy it myself. I usually get into a Discord group with a few of the guys and we'll laugh, and usually I'm far enough at the back that I'm just worried that I'm going to get in the leader's way and just try not to cause any issues. Like lap one there, I was trying to let Don go by and I didn't realize he was on my inside, and that's how that accident happened there.
Well, it's all learning, and I know that this group in here is a fantastic group when it comes to sportsmanship. So I don't think that there's any hard feelings out there.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Don and JP and then all the other guys that are in this that run. Thanks for not freaking out at me when I'm getting in your way or doing something wrong. I appreciate everything that you guys help out. Nick last week was showing me the race line. It was very appreciative. And I just like to thank everybody that's involved in this.
Awesome. Well, Justin, you kind of wrapped up my last question. Was there anybody that you wanted to say hi to?
Just all the fans and the guys back at the shop. Hot Rod Setup Shop, definitely for the setup. I know I don't do the best on it, but I'd give it my all every time.
That was Justin Knapp coming home in your final podium spot today here in Imola. And just have a couple more quick ones. Believe we've got Nick Sorensen with Justin.
Yes, indeed, Nick. 5 laps
guys.
down, 6 spot tonight. Yes, hello. How would you describe your night at this track?
Oh, it was a struggle. Yeah, I'll give you a guess of what I practiced most for this past weekend. But when the special events for iRacing come up, you got to take advantage of those. Unfortunately, we just didn't get enough practice here at Imola for the league race. Wish I could have gotten more. It's a great track, just not a whole lot of experience here, and I was just struggling today. I'd take 1 step forward and then 2 steps back, and then finally, I just had to put it in the pit at the end of the race.
Well, you quietly throughout this campaign finished off in the top 5 or so of the point standings. How would you describe the season as a whole?
Oh yeah, it was a great season. Kind of coming in towards the middle, front middle of the season. Getting to know the drivers here was great. Yeah, just had a great time. Everyone's super competitive. You can see today how it's a small field, right? So racing close is more fun, more exciting. It's better broadcast, and that's part of the reason guys want to race close. So you can see the sportsmanship, letting guys, catch back up, have a battle, and that's just attests to like how cool these guys are to race with.
So, as the season now comes to a close, anyone you want to give a shout out to from your respective campaign, or those who are watching along and cheering you on this season?
Yeah, Giancarlo, we race a lot together, and he was helping me out today. Uh, and then just the other guys in the league, always great competitors. They race hard, and but they race clean and very sportsman. So yeah, just congrats to everybody for doing a great job.
Once again, Nick Sorensen finishing off top 5 in the championship.
And I believe that we have one more person in here to interview, and I kind of consider him the daycare manager. Don York, welcome to the party.
Well, the GT3 isn't so much daycare babysitting as the NASCAR stuff is, but we, yeah, it's a party, all right.
Yeah, it is. And hot rod setups we got on the screen here showing what you guys do. And want to thank you for looking over everything, helping organize all of this. And I know that you don't always get to complete all the races, but you run a very important role here in this series. And very thankful to have you out on the racetrack, joining the party when you can.
When I can, I like to, yeah. Like places, I'm not very good at Imola. Like I'm not a great iRacer, okay? But like when I places like Imola, I'm even worse than if, say, Spa or Daytona or Le Mans or even this past weekend with the special event at Bathurst, the left turn only motorsports team that myself, Jamie Maudsley, and a few others that compete in the Ignite Racing League all run together. We ended up finishing second. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to get prepared for this race to do it. So I just thought, you know what? Yeah, I'll do up till about the caution and then I'll pit.
Well, and then you also threw the full course yellow here. So that was a little bit of a different thing that you guys did here this week. And I know it threw some drivers for a loop out there, but you handled it very well with how you opened and closed the pits. And props to you for kind of doing that on the fly.
We so back before the Christmas break, we raced at the Roval, and I think we started with, I don't know, 14 or 15 cars, and by 25 minutes left, we only had 6. So in the Roval, we called an audible, we threw a caution, bunched everybody up because everybody was so spread out. So I thought, you know what, tonight we were going through practice. I was doing the drivers' meeting, the last 10 minutes of practice, and I said, and then, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to close the pits 2 laps before. And then we're going to have the caution probably right around the 30 minutes to go mark. And if anybody had a problem with it, they were to speak up then. And nobody spoke up. So I don't know. Like it's the last 10 minutes of practice. Some guys aren't at the computer. Some guys aren't paying attention. They got Spotify playing in the background. So I feel bad for Juan and JP that they didn't pit under that caution. But, at the end of the day, everybody had the
Strategy,
same
man.
situation. Well, everybody
Yep.
had the same situation, and it's no different than if it's real life racing, right? Everybody's got the same situation. They gotta figure it out on the fly. Like especially some of the like your local short tracks, like where Justin and I go out Delaware. The bottom feeder divisions don't have spotters or crew chiefs telling them exactly what's going on with pits and all that. So it's something that we did it to try to bring the whole uh, program for the broadcast closer together. Now we were having a really good battle with Giancarlo and Paul before the caution came out, but that caution was supposed to be designed to bring everybody back into the mix because JP and Juan were, they were 6 seconds back and they weren't going to catch them without that caution either, right? I just didn't anticipate them not taking advantage of the free fuel. But
Yeah, well, like I mentioned, it's all strategy out there, but I just want to give one final thank you to you and everything that you do. And is there anybody that you want to say thank you to?
All these guys, all the drivers, man. Like, so we had through the course of the whole season, we had up to 52 drivers join the Ignite League and run, and there was a lot of good racing, a lot of hard battles. Nobody really wrecking each other. Like Justin Knapp, that I'll give him credit. He's stuck it through right from the first race. He didn't miss a race. He even knew like he wasn't going to be very good, but he stuck it through and he tried really hard. JP, Juan, Jose, they put on really good races every week, and then Giancarlo showed up and put up some really good, entertaining races between the three of them. So it's just all those guys and you guys. Without the broadcast, this is almost for nothing. I mean, it's pride basically, right? So without you guys, we're just sitting here entertaining ourselves rather than entertaining the people that watch.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words. And that was Don York of Hot Rod Setup Shops helping out here with this JP Alfonso Ignite Racing League GT3 series. And we want to thank tonight's race sponsor, JP Alfonso, as well as our broadcast partners here at Maconi Entertainment. Calling the action tonight was myself, Joey Atterbury, joined in the booth by Justin Prince and our producer, Eddie Smith, with Dougie Beard camera angles. As always, we would like to thank all of our viewers for tuning into tonight's racing action. We hope to see you next season for the Ignite Racing League GT3 series by JP Alfonso. And thank you all for watching each week as we had some incredible racing over this series. Until then, stay tuned to our social media pages for more upcoming broadcasts, and a thank you to the entire staff for their work in bringing this racing action to you. And this has been a production of Maconi Entertainment. We'll see you next time.